It's time for the show that brings the magic right to your speakers. Ears Up!
What's up, everybody? Ears Up podcast. We are back in the studio, and we're continuing the tradition of the 9 old men, and hopefully we'll be done sometime in 2028. We'll see. I don't know.
There are only 9 more men.
There's only 9. We're going to go through and do their wives next. The wives of the 9 old men and how they all coped with the insane drinking.
That's perfect.
And, and then the children's the whole thing. We're transitioning
There's also
our
young
podcast.
men and, other men that we can talk about, mostly men.
That's right. This is a man podcast right now. It's going to be called Young Men, and it's just about everybody who's ever lived but as young men.
Lovely.
Yeah. Harriet Tubman, young man. Who cares? Doesn't matter. We're gender bending the whole thing. Yeah.
Oh, we're flipping it. All right.
Yeah. Well, what do I care, right? No, who are we talking about today? Eric, you are, since Terrence left, you are de facto young man expert, which I
Thanks,
don't know.
Terrence.
I don't know if that's how that sounds to anybody, but I like it.
I'm more of an old man expert than a young man expert, and tonight we're talking about Woolie Reitherman.
Yeah. I heard that they're recreating him from DNA that they extracted from the tundra.
Yes.
Oh, no, it's woolly mammoth. Sorry, never mind.
Well, they left out the tusks.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
just ask Jurassic Park how that worked out. You just modified it. They can't do anything. Can't hurt us. Yeah.
Frog DNA.
Exactly right. Which is the dumbest plot hole in the entire universe. Because we just use frog DNA. So you mean to tell me that genetic scientists, like DNA experts in the field of DNA and animals, didn't know that certain species of frogs can flip their gender to reproduce? Like they didn't think about that?
Well, we're not sure if dinosaurs are mostly lizards or birds, but let's use frog. I've got a frog right here, as it happens.
I feel like that's the only way that you could bridge the DNA gap is just use frog DNA, but breed out the fact that they can't reproduce. But then, nature finds a way. You know what I mean?
Did you guys hear about that stingray?
No.
I did, but I didn't. They figured out what happened, but I don't know what. I didn't follow up enough.
I think it's like the frog thing. So there's a stingray who magically got pregnant. That it was impossible for her to be pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And
now there's a whole religion based around it.
Oh gosh, there is.
In 100 years, there's going to be the stingray people.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Does Alabama know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I don't really know a lot of the details except that she was like a virgin stingray who got pregnant, and it was something like para blah blah something
Parapsychological?
happened. I think
Paranormal?
think she somehow they figured out she was able to get herself pregnant.
All right.
Yeah.
None of that explanation helped understand.
It's some sort of phenomenon.
Look
Good
it
for
up.
them.
You look it up.
I will look
Please
it
look
up.
it up because now I'm curious. Speaking of curiosity, if you're curious about what the parks look like these days, or especially the Disney cruises, if you've never been on a Disney cruise and you want to do that, hit up our friends at Concierge to go to concierge.com. They will plan everything. I've never planned a Disney cruise. I've never really planned a cruise. The only one I've been on was for work, and it was just like, show up and make a video. Okay. And then, drink a lot of Newcastle Brown Ale, but which I did, and it was great. But I
Sounds like
wouldn't.
a great plan.
It was pretty good, honestly. I had to do the whole video by myself, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I can imagine planning a Disney vacation or a Disney cruise is kind of stressful because as much as there is to do in the parks, there's probably a third of that to do on the cruise ship, which maybe the fraction doesn't really sound like a lot, but you're in a confined space. There's a ton of stuff to do on these cruise lines. And I could imagine not having the time or the brain power to go and figure out what it is to do and when to do it and how to do it and where you're going and where you're staying. And I'm so babied right now with concierge. I just kind of want to, if we ever use them to actually, go through with a trip, it's going to be great. All I have to do is go, hey, Jimmy, this is when I want to go. Here's my credit card. Tell me when the things are going to be. I'm going to be playing Helldivers 2 until you wake me up until it's time to go. That's what's going to happen. So if you want to check that out, go to concierge.com. If you want to be like me, which who doesn't, honestly.
So is Helldivers 2 good? I don't really know a lot about it. I've heard some good things.
It is. It's good. The internet would have you believe it's like the second coming of Stingray, Baby Jesus. It's not that good. Tell you what, it's like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is good. She's not that good. She's above average, way above average singer, performer, songwriter. Like her songs aren't that great if you really think about it.
In what way? I think you need to clarify because
I don't need to clarify anything. It's my show.
No,
but
the Swifties could literally shut down this show. Like they are very powerful.
Honestly, they would be doing me a favor. They would just come stand behind me and put a stiletto heel right in the back of my neck, and I'm done. That's it.
I think what you're saying is that maybe like her lyrics can be simple. Is that what you're getting at?
I think her songs can be simple. I think all of her songs. The production value on her songs is pretty good. Some of the beats and the backing stuff is pretty good. But overall, it's just sort of, in my opinion, generic kind of pop music. But why she's popular is because she herself is marketable. She's the product, not her songs. That's my opinion on it. Her songs are easy to sing. They're easy to get stuck in your head. And they're easy for people to sing along with. And that's it. I don't think they're particularly great, but they're good.
But you like.
So you're saying I should check out this new artist when her movie drops on Disney Plus in a few weeks?
Yes. Well, she just won a big award in Las Vegas, actually, too. I can't remember what it was. It's like a trophy thing. So she won that, and that's pretty good.
Wait. Explain what's Las Vegas?
It's a place. Okay.
Yeah. And that's a place for trophies. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Good. So there's that. Anyway, I don't know. Whatever. So Helldivers 2 is like the Taylor Swift of video games. It's good. It's not as amazing as everyone wants it to be, but it's fun. That's my opinion.
Okay.
On it. Yeah.
More Disney Dreamlight Valley for me.
It's better than Disney Dreamlight Valley. I haven't touched that in I don't know how long.
It's a great thing to play while you're watching the news in the morning.
Okay, so back to Stingray Charlotte.
Okay.
Yes.
We have a name now.
Yes.
Nice.
Her name is Charlotte, and she is from an aquarium in North Carolina. And in her tank, there was never a male stingray. So at first, people were very confused. And she was found covered in shark bites, which is a sign of mating in sharks, which initially led some to speculate that a shark was the father and that Charlotte's baby would be a shark stingray hybrid. But research scientists basically said we need to set the record straight that there aren't some shark ray shenanigans happening here. Like that's literally impossible. And so I guess what they've determined has happened is it's some kind of where did that go?
Shark stingray hybrid.
It's a parthenogenesis, which is a rare form of asexual reproduction observed in some fish, birds, insects, and amphibians.
Nice.
So not a shark stingray hybrid, and
that's too bad.
But she did get herself pregnant.
The chimera we've been waiting for. Apparently the chat is not happy.
Our stingray overlords.
No, and this is what I was telling you. You can't. It's not that you can't. And this is why I was trying to explain further what you're saying, because the way that you just described it, if I were listening, I'd be like, "Oh, he doesn't like her." That's not true. You actually do like her.
I don't mind her. I wouldn't call myself a Taylor Swift fan, but like some of the songs I like. Yeah.
Okay. I
Sarah
think you would say that about anything.
Her music is amazing because of how it makes you feel and be seen and understood. And I think from a very from my standpoint, I haven't experienced a lot of these things, so I don't, I don't resonate with it. I understand. Look, I understand why it resonates with people. I'm not saying she's bad. For me, I think she's just above. She's an above average singer-songwriter, but she's very marketable, and that's what you need to make it in the world. She's very good at what she does. She puts on good shows, and she's very. I think more than anything, she's relatable. And I think maybe that's what Sarah's kind of saying too. It's like she people can relate to her. She can be very she doesn't seem like the world's hottest thing right now. She just seems like, she kind of just lumbers along and like goes to the zoo and, she just does normal stuff and people really relate to that. I think that also helps with that mythology. But I don't know. I mean, she's, her songs they're not amazing.
Well, I don't know if you've listened to a lot of the lyrics of a lot of the songs. You hear just a lot of the popular ones in this house. But,
no, I'm too busy being locked in the closet screaming while the songs are on.
But I will say, I think also her songs are relatable, and that's part of it. It's not just her personality. She literally writes every single song, and I think And I was telling you this the other day. Like I'm only a recent fan of hers because I couldn't really relate to being a person who's 41 years old. I couldn't relate to her music 10 years ago because she's young and singing about stuff that just didn't really relate to me. But now that she's a little older, she's singing about things that I can actually relate to. So I think she has just fans, just all the fans. And I think you're one of them.
I think she has fans. That's what Taryn said.
I said all the fans. All of them.
So which album am I listening to first?
Oh, gosh.
I don't know.
Anything.
The chat will tell me. Don't worry about it. Let
the chat tell you.
There are so many.
Whatever. Who cares? Whatever. She's nice. I think she's really nice. And I every time I see her and Travis Kelce on my TikTok feed, I smile because I want those two to get married. I want them to buy a sports team and make little influencers. That's what I want. Genuinely, that's what I want. I think it's nice.
And I'm still on the fence on this guy. I don't know. He seems a little douchey.
You were like, oh, she saw him drinking, and then she's not late, and then he's now in Sydney.
I know.
So you were wrong. Can we do the show, please? Let's do the show. What do you think of that? I don't really care anymore.
Which show are we doing?
The Super Bowl wrap-up show.
All right. Well,
Eric,
you know what I liked.
Take it away, buddy.
Oh, we're just jumping right in there to Woolie.
Yeah, I mean, what else are we going to do? Talk more about Taylor Swift?
I suppose we could.
Absolutely.
How far into the recording are we?
It felt like 4 hours, but it's only 13 minutes.
Well, let me tell you all about Wolfgang Reitherman. Woolie was one of Walt's 9 old men, and he was born as a young man, a very young man. When he was born, he was very young. On June 26th, 1909.
That happens. That tends to happen, yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. They all the 9 old men have that in common. When they were born, they were not old.
I love causality.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think about it.
Yeah, let that sink in, brother.
June 26th, 1909 in Munich, which at the time was part of the German Empire in the Kingdom of Bavaria. That's how long ago Woolie Reitherman was born.
Okay. Wow, just seemingly an indisputable landscape of calm and passivity.
Yep.
Nothing ever goes weird there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, his family moved to Kansas City, Missouri when he was around 2 years old.
Naturally.
And then moved to Sierra Madre, California. I'm
going to interrupt you because it amazes me how immigrants go to places. Like my family, like my grandpa came from Greece, from just this podunk village in Greece to Hayward, California. Like, how do you, where, you come into New York and you keep going until you hit the bay and you go, okay, maybe I'll just stop here. It blows my mind. It's so weird.
Kind of big.
They went as far as they could go. You couldn't really go much further.
Any farther. We could have gone to Hawaii, but maybe he didn't know it.
Maybe
Hawaii wasn't discovered yet.
Kansas City seems like kind of an odd place to stop for a little while. I guess my family stopped in Chicago and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan when they moved from Sweden.
Mine too.
There we go.
Weird, man.
But yeah, so when, according to one account, I haven't really confirmed this, but I saw it in one place. The family lived very close to Roy O. Disney when he lived in Kansas City.
Nice.
Before Walt moved out there. In Woolie's early days, he attended Pasadena Junior College, and he worked as a draftsman for Douglas Aircraft until 1931. He wanted to be a pilot in his early days and then said, you know what, I don't actually want to build the planes. I don't want to be an engineer. Let me study art. And he went to the Chenard Institute, where many of Disney's animators came from. And his teacher, Philip Dyke, suggested that Woolie apply to Disney to work as an animator. Woolie wanted to be a watercolorist, but when he came in, he had his interview, he showed off all of his stuff. Walt said, nah, you're an animator, which is another example of Walt saying, no, you don't do the thing you want to do. Do the thing I want you to do.
You don't know what you're good at.
Right.
I do.
Right.
Yeah.
And on May 21st, 1933, he started his career at Disney. He was working on shorts, and as Woolie states it, he skipped the in-betweener step where most of the artists would begin. So he was doing full-on animation right from the start. And Woolie said that was great because he working as an in-betweener would have killed him with boredom. For those of you who don't remember some of the other times we've talked about Disney animation or any animation, the main animators would do these big beats. And then all of the in-betweeners would come in behind them and draw the little bits of animation that would connect these major story beats. And thankfully, Woolie got to skip that part because Walt saw something in him. So his first short was Funny Little Bunnies. You remember Funny Little Bunnies, don't you?
Of course. I just actually watched it before this show.
Uh-huh.
No,
right.
I've never heard of it. I don't know.
Yeah. How about the band concert in 1935? You know that one?
No.
Is that the Mickey short?
No. You know what?
No,
I'll be honest with you. I don't know that I've seen a Mickey short.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that I've. Well, that's not true. In the Main Street Cinema there, I've gone in and like watched those.
Okay.
But I know the Barnyard one, Barnyard Boogaloo or whatever, where he like flies the airplane into the barn.
Oh.
That one. I can't remember anything
Plane Crazy
else.
or
Plane Crazy. There you go.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, you've ridden on the Silly Symphony Swings at DCA, right?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's say yes.
Yes.
That's the band concert.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So then I have seen yes. Let's just say yes.
All right. Well, then obviously you know Music Land and Elmer Elephant and many of the other shorts that Woolie was an animator on. You have probably seen Snow White, which was
yes.
one of his. He was very honored to work on Snow White. He drew the magic mirror.
Oh,
cool.
Nice.
And his take on the magic mirror was he wanted the mirror to be completely neutral. Just a neutral voice that would say, here's what's going on. So he tried to make the face completely symmetrical, and try as he might, he couldn't draw it that way. So finally he settled on drawing half of the face, folding the paper over, and then tracing the other half.
Oh, interesting.
And keep the tracing in your head for later. But it worked out pretty well. He was a little disappointed that Walt eventually decided to put the smoke effects in front of the magic mirror and some other distortions on the animation because he spent so much time trying to create this perfect character. I still think it worked out pretty well, but I guess as the guy who drew it, he might have some different feelings.
It did work out well, but I will say she certainly is not neutral. She is. She sounds mean and vindictive. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting to see that take on things. Woolie became known for creating perspective and building this blend between comedy and drama in his work. He did Monster of the Whale and Pinocchio. We'll talk more about some of his approach toward animation later. He did some work in Fantasia, specifically in The Rite of Spring when the dinosaurs are fighting. And he did some scenes of Timothy, Q Mouse, and Dumbo. But then in 1942, he left Disney to join the Army Air Force.
Oh, interesting.
So whereas many of Disney's animators stuck around to help dig the studio out, Jason did a great episode, was that about a year ago, on the wartime efforts?
Probably, yeah.
Woolie was one of those guys that left and said, I'm joining the military. I'm going to fight those Nazis. And he did. He earned a Distinguished Flying Cross Medal for his missions in Africa, China, India, and the South Pacific. After 4 years, he had earned the rank of major and was discharged from the military. At that time, he did not go back to Disney. He flew a lot of long passenger flights from California to Asia, where he met a comely young stewardess named Janie. And he married Janie Marie McMillan in 1946 and started having kids. When she was pregnant with their first child, they almost moved to San Francisco, but Walt convinced Woolie to come back.
Wow.
So 1947, Woolie's back.
Which means they were in touch.
Oh, yeah.
Which means he kept in touch with Walt through the whole thing.
And I'm sure, like, that's the sort of thing. Like, he was one of those people that he didn't have this deep friendship with Walt, maybe, but Walt trusted him. And that carries forward. Walt knew that he would get the work done. He wasn't the fastest animator. He wasn't the best animator. He wasn't the Michelangelo, like they said of Milt Kahl. But he got things done, and he did things in an interesting way using perspective and pacing, and he knew what would make people laugh, and he knew what would make people go,
yeah. And so he's saying he's the Taylor Swift of animators.
There we go.
Not the best, but she gets things done, and that's really what matters. I don't know.
I'll leave that one on the table.
I think it's interesting to leave after 4 years being in the military and then having a whole completely other job, you're still in touch with Walt at some point enough for Walt to be like, hey, I need you to come back. Like, I wonder if it was, I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. Walt needed that dependability. He just maybe trusted that Woolie didn't lose it. I mean, I would imagine drawing and animating, you need to really keep up with that kind of stuff. You know, you're not killing Nazis. That's not really going to help you draw your little figures.
Right. But yeah, Walt had that trust in him and wanted him back. So he put his first job back at the studio was animating the Headless Horseman, and specifically the sequence where the Headless Horseman is chasing Ichabod Crane toward the end of that short. And Woolie continued. He animated key sequences in all of the feature films until Sleeping Beauty. And that's when he kind of stepped up to an animation director. He got more involved in directing than animation. According to Woolie, he convinced Walt to move forward with Cinderella. He said, it's time to do a feature again. Walt was a little embarrassed by Jacques and Gus, the little mice. He thought they were silly. And Woolie's like, no, let's do it. I think it'll be great. And it worked out. He stepped up as an animation director. He directed a lot of the character work in Alice in Wonderland. He was impressed that years later it got more popular because it wasn't a huge commercial success at the time. He said it was very popular, especially among the college kids. Imagine that.
I wonder why. That's so weird. Huh.
We'll get down to his style and philosophy. In 1959, he was fully directing. Walt had stepped back from animation a lot to work on Disneyland and such. And Woolie was trusted to be the sole director. He started out doing individual sequences in some movies like Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians. But then when he got to Sword in the Stone, he was the first sole director for a Disney feature. Before that, it was always directed by multiple people. But Woolie was trusted to run the entire show.
Wow.
The animators generally trusted Woolie to get the job done. He did it in a friendly way. He was very collaborative, very supportive, and it worked.
I wonder what that feels like to work for someone who is like that or to be like that. That's weird.
Right.
Yeah. Supportive? No, come on.
Yeah. Now, things didn't always work out perfectly. When Walt passed, Woolie stepped up and said, hey, we got to continue animation because the studio was willing to shut down animation. They were ready to step back and say, we can just re-release all the classics.
Good.
Every few years.
That's cool.
We'll make money off of those forever.
Wow.
But Woolie stepped up and said, Jungle Book's almost done. And Walt saw most of that. Aristocats, Walt at least said, that's a good concept. Do it. Let's start those. And thankfully, Jungle Book was very well received. It was a huge success. Aristocats was still pretty much a success. And that kind of cemented animation for the next few years, where Woolie was able to lead the studio for a long time. He had 3 young sons, all of whom played Disney characters. Mowgli, Christopher Robin, Wart from Sword in the Stone. He brought his kids in to do all of these young voice roles.
Yeah, because he's seen those residual checks.
That's amazing.
Right. You know what I mean? The grandkids are probably going to college based on those residual checks.
Right. So Woolie continued on until he had some creative differences during Fox and the Hound, where he stepped back. He was still involved in animation for a long time. His last feature that he was involved with was The Black Cauldron.
Okay, ending on a low note.
Yeah. Still kind of cool if you haven't seen it in a while.
I haven't seen it yet. Actually, I've never seen it.
Oh, really?
I keep meaning to watch it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's dark. I wish I could have seen it the way it was before Katzenberg came in and said, let's edit this. And they're like, you can't edit an animated movie that way. You can't just cut stuff out and reshoot it.
Watch me.
Right. Now, Woolie's style and philosophy is really well laid out by Andreas Deja, who wrote the book The Nine Old Men. He has a blog that he's been doing for years. He was another Disney animator who really focused on the Nine Old Men in particular and the history of Disney animation. So I've got a lot of quotes from Deja and from a lot of other animators that Woolie worked with over the years here, describing how he got things done. I should have bought this book sooner. Please seek it out. I'll hold it up here for the camera because some people might watch this. The Nine Old Men. It's less a documentary sort of style, less a biography, and more a look into the art style of each of these people and how they built things and how they approached animation. There's multiple pages where it's just image after image. So you can kind of compare those major beats as they go through and see how these guys approach things differently.
That is a little more interesting, I think, than like, he went to high school and one time he fell and the gym teacher said, you get up. And that really motivated him for the rest. That I don't resonate with. But figuring out how stuff worked, and especially I think why people still gravitate towards the Night Old Men is because they developed all these things. They redefined the industry and they had to figure it out. Just like the reason why Disneyland, I think, is so popular. One of the reasons is because all this was new at the time.
Yeah.
Walt had to figure it all out. Imagineers had to figure it out. And that's why they're all revered, is because they had to come up with stuff.
Right.
But nowadays, they just recycle everything.
Yeah,
fine, whatever.
Well, speaking of recycling, we'll get there.
Nice.
But anyway, Woolie's main style, like the things that he was known for amongst the other animators, he was slower. He was very deliberate. He wasn't the guy that would crank out a ton of animation in a day, like somebody like Ward Kimball, but he understood emotion. He understood pacing and he understood perspective. So this guy, when it comes to the magic mirror, he understood what it took to create that type of blank emotion in a face. It needs to be stoic. It needs to be symmetrical. That's what I want to do. But he also animated Goofy multiple times, and did a lot of these comedic effects that he loved doing comedic things, and he loved doing action sequences. So he understood facial work to express emotion. He always knew when to give a beat for the audience to laugh. When Goofy did something particularly funny, he'd give them pause. When there was an action sequence, he knew to pause for just a moment to let people breathe and go, oh, wow.
There are thinking about the Goofy shorts I've seen, probably all of them, because he's better than Mickey. There is that sort of timing. There's that breath. There's that beat of like, here's what happens, and you let the audience figure out what happened. Then you give Goofy like a weird look or a bewildered look or whatever, and it kind of like accentuates it a little bit. But yeah, I guess I never really, I don't know. You never really think about how those things develop, which again, back to that book, that actually sounds really interesting because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the third thing that he really brought was perspective. So he could have Goofy swing a fishing pole toward the screen and it would get bigger toward you, like a real camera. He could have the dinosaur's tail in Fantasia swing toward you and get bigger and then sweep back and get smaller. Monstro the whale is enormous, like this massive whale crashing against rocks at the end of Pinocchio. It brings so much drama to it. And some of the other animators didn't get that because they're used to, squiggly arm Mickey going, hey, everybody. And that's, that's bringing in this realism that's still animation to the entire experience. So some of the other animators would say that Woolie experimented with perspective and movement more than a lot of the other guys. And that meant he would send a lot of pencil sketches to the Moviola. So have you heard of a Moviola before?
No.
No.
The Moviola was a device that many of the big animators had in their offices. But essentially it was, you could draw things on paper, you could sketch out things or draw things, pretty close to the final product, send it off to the photographer. They would take a bunch of images and they'd rough out a quick film. So then you could watch it on the Moviola and see the rough movement of the animation and go, that's what I want, or I need to move this over there. And a lot of the main animators would do that frequently. Woolie did it more than anybody because his sketches were largely based on movement at first. So Don Bluth, another Disney animator who went on to leave Disney and form his own animation studio, said that he was impressed that it would take Woolie 4 or 5 tries at an animation until anybody other than him could figure out what he was doing. Because his early sketches were just movement. They were lines and they were body forms, and it was just, how does this move? How do these two dinosaurs fit onto the same screen? What happens when the tramp bites this rat? How do we do that? And they would slowly come together over multiple tries, and then suddenly everybody would realize that this was the animation, this was the scene. But to Woolie, the characters came like second or fifth to everything else. He had a process, and this is the way he wanted to approach it. He was known for animating comedy and drama with equal flair. One of his favorite scenes was the one I mentioned before, where the Headless Horseman was chasing after Ichabod Crane at the climax. He was particularly proud at the times when Ichabod would think he had gotten away. And he'd have this moment where he's sighing, and he has a little comedic moment with his horse, like, "Ha, we got out of here." And he didn't. So he knew how to pace those action sequences. Woolie once said, "Nobody's going to worry about a gag's logic as long as it's funny." So case in point, Peter Pan, you've got Captain Hook with Croc at the end of the movie, where Captain Hook is holding open the crocodile's jaws with his legs.
Right,
a scene that we even see in the ride. It's so iconic. And it's kind of silly. It's kind of cartoony, but it's also dramatic. Like, it's believable because it's funny, but it's also kind of cathartic because this is the bad guy. He still looks like the bad guy. He didn't turn into a caricature of himself. He's just trying to stay away from this animal.
Yeah, it's like the bad guy gets humiliated. And that's always a good way to end sort of a child's story or a family-friendly thing where the bad guy doesn't die or the bad guy doesn't get away, but the humiliation of the bad guy is always a good resolution. I think that, that's good.
And that's a really good point because he learned from that, because he animated the dog fights and the rat fight sequences in Lady and the Tramp, which are mildly traumatic. I mean, Tramp kills a rat right at the end of the movie, and it's one of those sequences you remember as a kid. You're like, oh, that's scary. And he ended his career by toning down Disney violence and making sure that the characters were still relatable. They had interesting relationships with each other. They still had funny gags. They still had over-animated comedic villains like Medusa in The Rescuers. As he became a director, he tried to tone things back and say, let's maybe not traumatize all the children for the rest of time.
These kids are weak. They can't take it the way I could when I was flying through the air.
Now, Woolie became known for two major advancements, quote, advancements in animation. One was the Xerox method.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me guess. Yeah, totally original pieces of art that he would stay up all night producing.
Well, this was at least Xerox started out with pencil sketches. And this is something you start to see. The first time it was really seen was the short Goliath 2. It continued into Jungle Book, 101 Dalmatians, Fox and the Hound. Think of these movies and how the animation style is a little scratchy. The lines aren't as crisp.
Okay.
And the whole point of the Xerox method was you would take the pencil sketches from the animators and they could put in different colored lines to say, well, here's the backbone of, the hound in this scene, and help to kind of show movement for the in-betweeners. But the main idea was they would Xerox the pencil sketches and use those, as opposed to the old method of taking a transparency, slapping it on top of a pencil sketch, and drawing a clean line for all of the characters on the screen, and then doing the paint method for the color. So they're cutting out the clean lines. They're just painting basically onto the Xerox, the pencil sketches, and you've got this rougher edge around because animators were so concerned with, this is my method for showing movement. It's a little bit rougher. It's more fluid, but it's not as refined. But it cuts out a major chunk of time and effort and expense in the middle of the process. And this is something that happened before Walt was gone. Nobody really liked it, but it did save on the production, because some of the early movies cost so many millions of dollars to produce, and this is all hand-drawn animation. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of cells of animation being hand-drawn. That's tons of people. The studio was enormous. So to cut on costs, because they weren't making the same money they had to cut back. And thankfully, things like Jungle Book hit, where the animation style wasn't as clean, but the songs were there, the story was there, the pathos was there, the action was there. It still worked. And that's kind of what carried the studio forward. The other thing that Woolie is probably more reviled for was tracing.
That's where I thought you were going with the Xerox method.
Yes, Xerox method is separate from tracing.
And I'm learning this now.
So tracing was this procedure where you could take old animation scenes that had been preserved and then trace over them. So you could take a scene where Snow White is dancing with the dwarves and translate it into Robin Hood and Maid Marian dancing using the same movements. You're going to trace over them. You're going to you use the same body type and then put the rest of the features on top of it. And you can use this in Aristocats as well. You can use this in Jungle Book, The Rescuers. You can use it in anything because you already spent all this time and effort to animate real people dancing, because that's how they learned in the early days, was watching videos of film strips of people dancing and sometimes tracing over it to get some of the major beats and sometimes going, okay, well, this is how people move. This was a very controversial technique, which is actually one of the reasons Milt Kahl, one of the other 9 old men, quit the studio. He couldn't stand reusing Snow White in The Rescuers and Robin Hood. He was embarrassed to see classic animation used in such a crass way, and he said, I'm not doing this anymore. So I will, let's see, do you have the link ready-ish?
Sure, let's do that.
So we can probably share the link with everybody, but this video I think was really well done. It shows the multiple sequences together using a sequence from Robin Hood, the song about the fake Prince John, and pulling in sequences from other animated features that use the same exact movements throughout. This is Little John singing the song about the fake King of England, but there's a lot of dancing and movement that's going on that's reused in other sequences. So if you scrub through this video, they post both sides, and you can see the exact same movements. Robin Hood and Snow White is on the screen here.
Yeah. So you have the scene in Snow White where she's dancing with the dwarves, and then they're all like, 3 dwarves in a trench coat dancing with Snow White, and then that's reused in Robin Hood as well, and then the scene where in Jungle Book where Baloo is,
Baloo's dancing,
but Baloo is the same character in Robin Hood. Yeah. You can't convince me. It's the same actor,
it's exactly the same.
True, but you don't have to animate the same movements. So there are some original scenes here in the whole thing. It's not completely reanimated. So
right.
If you scrub through this particular video, you get to some other scenes from Aristocats and The Rescuers, where you see those same movements in movies before and after Robin Hood. So it's not just recycling classic animation like Snow White. You're carrying this forward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've heard of this before, and it has to make things so much easier.
Yeah, we've talked about it a few times, and it basically looks like Jungle Book and Snow White are kind of pulled from for Robin Hood. I'll try to post this. It is interesting.
What's particularly interesting is that many people have said, well, it's because all of this happened because they were trying to save money. They were trying to save time.
Right. That's what I've always heard.
And that's what a lot of places kind of recycle. What I've seen in multiple sources, Floyd Norman, friend of the show.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Floyd Norman has gone on record saying that when he was doing, because one of his first big gigs was Jungle Book, he set the record straight. And he said that Woolie was a pretty driven, he was a very organized, but he was not an imaginative director. As an animator, he could be imaginative, he could express himself. As a director, he wanted to keep things that he knew people would like. So for Woolie, it was easier to reuse sequences that they had spent so much time on in the past. Floyd and other animators have said that new animation would have been faster and obviously more fun for the animators to try to do something new, but Woolie preferred to keep it safe. He wanted to reuse things that they had done before that audiences reacted to, because tracing over old animation is not easy. It's slow. If you're an animator and you're skilled, you know movement. You want to create things on your own. Using old stuff didn't work.
It seems like it's I had a great idea. I had a great thought and I lost it. It seems like he might have been unsure of Robin Hood, of the story, because that's where it seems like all this is kind of coming from, where they're reusing all this stuff for Robin Hood specifically for the first time. And it feels like, at least if it was me, and if I'm going, okay, am I going to invest a bunch of time and effort into animating new sequences, or if I can curb everything, know exactly what people are going to want and give the same thing that they've liked before to them now, that will help this project, succeed a bit more. So to me, it feels like he didn't really respect the project, or not respect the project, but didn't really have confidence in the project that this movie was going to be good.
And
you know what I mean?
I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah. Milt Kahl said he met up with a critic once after Jungle Book came out, and this critic had recognized. Milt Kahl was like a little bit worried because he said, I knew that these critics knew more about the animation than I did, and I drew the movie.
Right.
But this critic came up and said, I recognize that sequence from Snow White. And he was so embarrassed that he couldn't defend himself. And he said, yeah, we reused it. It became a major point of contention between Woolie, Milt Kahl, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston. Several of the 9 old men really got upset about it, and it was a part of the reason several of them left.
Wow.
Yeah, Woolie continued working on different things. He was working on another Fantasia sequel called Musicana. He was working on a movie called The Little Broomstick about a young witch.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because I'm thinking about these reporters or whoever discovered that the two movies were the same. Like, that person is the biggest nerd ever because there was no internet to compare those things. Like, who is sitting there watching
Holy cow.
Like, who is watching Robin Hood going, oh my God, that is Snow White and Dopey dancing? Like, who's doing that?
I feel like back then it's sort of like the moon landing, where like if they replaced Neil Armstrong coming off of the moon lander, you know, in something else, I don't know. I think you would recognize it. That's how impactful Snow White was. Mm. And I feel, and I think if I remember correctly, they released that movie every year, every like 5 or 10 years in the movie theaters. Mm. So it's probably that this critic had seen it relatively recently as you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's my thought.
Definitely possible. Yeah.
It was rolling
but also
in my
nerd.
head.
Yeah, for
big
sure.
Nerd.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I just can't imagine ever watching two movies and going, hey, that's exactly the same art. Like, I don't know. It's so weird because it's actually not, but it kind of is. I don't know.
It's nerdier than realizing that a lot of the same voices are reused. Like, that's more acceptable. You're like, wow, this guy's playing a different character, or he's playing a different bear.
Yes.
But it is really sharp. And to your point, Taryn, you know, it's not like this person was able to see it 100 times like we can now. Like, we can go just put it on repeat over and over again.
We could have two screens going and watching them both at the same time. Like, this person had to go to the theater
and remember it, but also they were critics, so it's probably a little easier to like stick with it. Who knows?
Well, and I guess the definition of a critic is like critiquing, and so you have your eye on every detail,
right? So
anyway, that's just weird. Like, just stop. Relax. Anyway.
Well, Woolie had some critics amongst the older folks. He had some major allies in the younger animators. Dale Oliver said that underneath his iron crust, Woolie was a great, sensitive man.
Iron crust. Now I'm hungry.
Oh, all right. A lot of people said liked how he would help out with their animation. So Ward Kimball actually who basically came up with the main design of Jiminy Cricket with Mark Davis. Woolie still came in and animated some very key sequences of movement that they couldn't quite get. A lot of these younger animators really looked up to him because he stepped up and took over the studio at a time when Walt wasn't around. Perhaps a segment that we need to spend some more time on is
did Woolie give Walt cancer to take over the studio?
There we go.
Maybe maybe Walt's like, I should really quit smoking. Was like, no. Here are these reports from Wilson Phillips or whoever the cigarette company is.
I just bought you another carton.
Yeah. Philip Morris, not Wilson Phillips.
Yes, different tobacco manufacturer.
Yeah.
One of his biggest critics was Bill Peet, who was an animator who left the studio
to form Pete's Coffee, right?
Right.
Yeah.
He believes that Woolie stole credit for Cruella de Vil and believed a lot of the other animators stole his work. He's a whole thing. He's a very bitter man when it comes to Disney animation. Definitely worth a discussion in the future.
Nice. I love it.
But whereas other people are saying, oh no, we worked together well with Woolie. It was such a collaborative effort, and he would help us with things. This guy's saying, no, he stole my character.
Dang.
I love
that. Like I mentioned, he eventually kind of stepped away from directing because he had some clashes with folks. He retired in the early 80s. He had his moment where he got to enjoy his retirement. Had a lot of great interviews, including a fun one. I got a lot of good content from, now I can't find the name of the magazine because I moved on to another page. But yeah, like a lot of early, like kind of e-ticket sort of magazines where they wanted to talk to the old guys because they were starting to retire. Well, unfortunately, Woolie died on May 24th, 1985 at the age of 75.
Wow, young.
Yeah. He was in a car crash. He veered off the road, hit a tree just blocks from his home in Burbank. There's a whole article about it in the LA Times that does a great review of his life.
That's awful.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, pretty sudden. There's not a lot of information about how that really happened. But yeah, they say he was survived by his wife, Janie, his 3 sons, 3 grandchildren. He was described as, first of all, an actor, second, a story man, and third, an artist. I'd like to end this one on a quote from Woolie himself. My work has a vitality and a I don't give a damn, just try it quality.
Nice.
What does that even mean?
That's these old guys. They're like, I don't know. I just drew it.
I figured it out. I mean, I didn't have anything to compare it to. So whatever I did was the first effort, and that was it. We did
Walt seemed to like it.
There's something to be said for like trailblazing, where you can just get away with that stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what are you going to compare it to?
Right.
Nobody else has done this way before. So did it work? Sure. Is it better than anything else? I don't know. And neither do you. So let's go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, very good, Erik. Very good. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Let's do some news because there's quite a little bit to talk about, and then we'll get out of here. So hang on, everyone. It's Ears Up. We'll be right back.
Back to Ears Up, where the opinions never stop. Ever.
All right. Thanks for hanging around, everyone. Sorry about that blank space, but don't blame me. We had bills to pay.
Are you okay?
Was it blank?
He's now
Taylor
just
Swift
speaking with Taylor Swift songs.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't get it.
No, that's all right, man.
You're the only one who won't get it.
I'm just the man. Are you ready for it?
Scrub back
you
to
need
see
to calm down.
I did that
Evermore.
to Alice the other day.
Yeah.
She was
Probably blew her little mind.
she was freaking out. She was like
she was.
crying and mad at me about something, and I just started singing. I was like, "You need to calm down. You're being too loud." And it made her so much more mad.
Oh, I bet.
It was so worth it, though.
The one thing I've learned in life is never tell a woman to calm down.
No, but
Yeah,
like when you sing it like Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
like her brain didn't know what to do because she obviously was like, she knew what I was doing.
Yeah, but she thought you were probably making fun of her. That's how she is.
Yeah,
I
probably.
don't know.
But,
It might be. Maybe you just confused her a little bit. Confuse a kid.
but sometimes you just have to. You got to take those wins as a parent because it was very fun for me to do because she was like crying about something so dumb, and obviously it's not dumb to her, but like also you need to calm down. You're being too loud.
Yeah.
So
yeah, look, man, whatever. What are you gonna do? Taylor, Allison, Swift. You know what I mean?
you sure know a lot about Taylor Swift.
She's all over my look. I'm not saying I don't like her. Just saying, as far as music goes, it's not the greatest.
Well, the chat is saying her popular songs may seem a bit simple, but you should look into Folklore and Evermore.
I know
you're not going to, but I'm just saying maybe don't make opinions if you haven't read all her lyrics.
I'm not going to. I've never, and I will repeat this, ever sat down and read all of the lyrics from any music artist that I like. I've never done that, and I never will do that because that's not how I listen to music.
Right.
I listen to music for the music, and if I hear the lyrics, and to be fair, a lot of my music is whatever, so I don't know it, right?
Sure.
But it's so for me musically, I take it or leave it. It's fine. I'm sure the lyrics are beautiful. I know she's talented. I'm not saying she's not talented.
You just say above average.
It's just not. It's just I don't know.
There are a lot of musicians out there, so being above average is kind of like saying, we've got a podcast that 80 people listen to, and according to stats, they're like, you're above average.
You're above average. That's right. We are technically above average. Not that we have 80 listeners. We have 104 active in the chat. I'm just joking, everybody.
Quiet down, chat. So many people. Please join the chat next time, listeners.
Or don't. I don't really care.
You won't be drowned out by the 104 other people.
Yeah.
We have BFFs in the chat.
Yeah.
Always.
True.
I like the chat. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, we're doing some of this.
March in the past, present, and future with all the news that's fit to cover. It's the EarzUp Disney News.
Look, like I saw a video today where Taylor's in Sydney and she like leans out the side of her friggin' limo and like yells at this kid because she likes her shirt. This kid's like 8 and the kid has like a 1989 shirt on and was like, you know, hey, you want to get a picture? And the kid was like, great, and like made this little kid's day. I'm like, you don't see Beyonce doing that. You don't see like the largest stars in the world do this. She's the largest pop star in the world right now.
Yeah.
In the world. Undeniable. Undebatable. And she still does this kind of like outreach stuff. You can call it performative. I don't really think so. I'm not that cynical when it comes to her because she comes off as very folksy, which is her charm. She's very charming in a relatable way. Where any other singer, songwriter in the spotlight, any actor, you don't get that. There's nobody who puts on a vibe that's that popular, that still has a vibe of like, I'm 18 and here's my song. You know what I mean?
That's nice. Accessibility, yeah.
The accessibility is there too. Yeah, for sure. Relatability, 100%.
And what's interesting is you haven't even seen the documentary of hers on,
no, I don't
on
need
Netflix.
To. I don't need to fall more in love with her.
I know you don't need to, but like that's where I was like, oh wow, she's like super. She's just like a real person. She's like your best friend. You know, like But you haven't even seen that, and you feel that way. So
I don't feel that way. I feel like she's relatable. I don't feel like she's my best friend.
Not your best friend, but like a
that is
like
reserved for
friend.
for Josh Freeze. Okay, he's my best friend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I would say Rolly Crump is my best friend, but I'm only best friends with people who survive. Okay, guys?
No.
Are you serious right now?
It's a joke. It was supposed to be a funny joke, okay?
My goodness.
Disneyland After Dark Star Wars Night is back with even more jam-packed galactic entertainment. Themed food, drinks, and merch for 8 separate nights at the Anaheim theme park. The separately ticketed event will be held April 16th, 18th, 23rd, 25th, 30th, and May 2nd, 7th, and 9th, 2024. So if you're a Star Wars nerd with extra money in your pocket in this economy, you know, when we have giant corporations raising price, shrinkflation, which is a real thing. If you can afford to go, man, do it. Let me know how it is. I've never been to a Star Wars night. Eric, you probably live there. You probably get both discounts.
They consulted me on it, and I said, you know what?
You're like, make it dumber, please.
No, I would never say that.
Yeah.
I've never been to Star Wars night.
You've never been to Star Wars night? Oh, my goodness.
I've never been to any of the... I guess the only Disneyland... It's not really an After Dark thing, is I've been to Oogie Boogie Bash.
Oh, okay.
And the previous one that they had at Disneyland back when they had that there before they moved it to DCA. But I've never been to like a
ticketed event.
Disneyland late night ticketed event. Yeah.
We've been to 2. One, we got picked to be invited to Cars Land preview. That was fun.
That was wild when they used to give things away.
Yeah, that was neat.
That was
cool. We did the Tower of Terror goodbye.
Oh, yeah, I remember you talking about
which was not worth it. That's it, I think. No, we did the Halloween one once.
We did Halloween, but it was not Oogie Boogie's Bash at that time. It was just Halloween.
We're old heads.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was cool at Disneyland because you could do like all of Fantasyland in 10 minutes and get a bag full of candy.
Yeah.
Or apple slices. Recreate your own. It basically is Lego for apples. You recreate your apple, build your own apple. Guests are encouraged to dress in their Star Wars best, and those in themed costumes are invited to participate in a special parade with Mickey and Minnie down Main Street.
That's cute. That's fun.
I know. I like that. And bring your lightsaber along because you'll get the Star Wars Night Lightsaber Instructional or the Resistance Show of Unity.
Oh, boy.
I mean, that's whatever. They're going with it.
The instructional is don't hit the guy next to you.
Yeah, right.
That kid can't withstand a lightsaber smack to the forehead.
There's a galactic dance party, and then there's like themed food and stuff like that. So that's cute. Tickets are $159 for 3 and up. There is no discount if you can say full sentences.
Wow.
So there you go.
Dumb your toddlers down, everybody.
Yeah, right, dude. Yeah, geez, Louise, man, that's a lot of dough.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Disneyland and fun things that happen at the park, have you guys seen this story going around social where a Disney influencer fell into Snow White's wishing well?
No, but I'm glad
all
that
3
they
feet?
did.
Right. Yeah, I'm super glad this person fell. She was taking a picture, and these people, look, I'm sure they're fine. Maybe I should.
We should see.
Yeah, maybe we should see. I got to get back.
I feel
to
like
Zoom.
I need to see this.
But this lady was like sitting on the side of the well, taking a picture, the influencer picture, basically claiming the spot for herself, and nobody else could get by.
Okay.
And she fell backwards into the wishing well, and I think it's very funny. That's not it. Now this is my reading, guys. Light reading, solving the puzzle of long COVID. I'm trying to do my part. Okay.
I thought you weren't looking this stuff up anymore.
I don't look it up, but when articles come across my feed, I want to read about them so I can post them on Facebook and get people mad at me. And she's falling backwards. There you go. That's it. That's it? That's the video? Basically, literally just her falling backwards. Okay, that was not worth it at all.
Okay.
What a dummy.
Yeah.
But also, it's kind of funny.
It's
'Cause
hilarious.
She's also like in a dress. Like she's dressed up.
This is why I was like bringing it up, because these people are dressed like in princess. So, they're trying to be influencers. They're trying to do the thing. And these are the people I don't enjoy at the parks, like the Disney adults the main character syndrome kind of thing. I mean, there's a line between having fun and trying to be a part of the fun. And that's, I don't know, whatever.
But we're having cotillion at Disneyland this year.
Anyway, and so people are like, oh, she's trying to sue and she wants compensation. But I guess
For what?
these people reached out to the lady and she's like, no, I'm not. I just went and got like a change of clothes. Like, it's fine. And she admits her mistake, and I guess it's all fun. Right. Like, it's just not a serious thing. So that's cool.
That's good.
But I do really love people trying to be popular online actively hurting themselves.
I know. It is very funny.
It's very satisfying in some way. It's like ASMR for me.
I thought you were going to say AFV, and I was going to say yes.
No, that's not what I was going to say at all.
Same vibe.
Yeah, basically.
Have you guys heard about the big cell service outage that happened today?
Yes.
That was not affected by it. We were not affected by it at all. But
that was real. I thought.
Yeah.
I literally did. I scrolled past all of that news because I thought that was like conspiracy theorist stuff.
A lot of it is because a couple days ago there was like, oh, Russia launched a nuke into space and it's hovering and it's going to be an EMP blast and it's going to invade. Then we're going to invade us or whatever. And it's like they're sending 50-year-old tanks into Ukraine. They're not going to do anything. It's fine.
Wait, we weren't invaded?
I mean, maybe we were.
Yet.
I don't know. It depends on what side of the aisle you're on. You know what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
Yeah, but apparently there was a big cell service outage. It was AT&T, and they've since figured it out. They're like, yeah, it's just an update. Tricky update got him, everybody.
Yeah.
The guy blasted him. But like it was more SoCal, I think, than NorCal.
Okay.
And a couple other states were affected by it. And at first people were like, oh, it was a solar flare because there's a big solar flare coming. But like, that's not it. And then eventually AT&T's like, yeah, my bad. We just did it. We screwed up. Or maybe they're covering and maybe it was like a hack. That's what a lot of people were thinking too, like North Korea hack or whatever, because we are like our infrastructure is being sort of like under attack constantly by bad actors from North Korea and China and whatever, right?
And it's really not outside of the realm of possibility. I mean, it
literally happens, but they fight it. The U.S. cybersecurity kind of like stops it.
Yeah, and AT&T is no longer on Windows XP.
There you go. Yeah, they're Windows 95.
As of this afternoon.
Per NBC, 71,000 mobile users reported having no cell service by 8 a.m. Eastern time. The carriers report that the cause of the mass outage is unknown, but like I said, they figured it out now, and stated we are working urgently to restore service, blah, blah, blah. On Thursday morning, we noticed that Lyft prices for, Lyft, not Uber, right, have skyrocketed following the outage. I don't understand why. While trips from the Orlando International Airport to Disney World are usually around $35, they had risen to over $100. That is so weird to me. why like ride share prices would be elevated in an outage like this.
Well, and what's so odd is like you can't even, if you don't have cell service, you can't even get your ride.
You can still do Wi-Fi though.
Oh yeah.
So they were probably like doing it on Wi-Fi, but I don't understand the correlation there.
Or all the drivers like, I don't know how to get to the Disney World. I haven't done this 3 times today.
Oh,
Right.
I guess that could be it. Maybe they couldn't. I mean, you don't have Wi-Fi when you're in your car driving, so.
Well, but it's only AT&T.
Right.
So if you're T-Mobile or whatever, you're fine.
Right. So you raise the prices because only those people.
You can't. Lyft does it. Like when you're a driver, you don't have control of the prices.
No, I understand, but Lyft is raising the prices because they don't have enough. They won't have enough drivers to be able to handle their normal amount of people.
Maybe it seems automatic to me. So something triggered that. I don't think it was a decision made by Lyft. I think it was just probably there was more demand, and so it just shot it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently there was like there was an outage in the parks too, where the people were having trouble getting scanned in. It was a whole mess in Disneyland today, and apparently Disney World too. So that happened. That must have been fun for everybody. Can you imagine getting so mad? I see TikToks and stuff. People like coming to the store, like the AT&T stores, and they're like, "This dude's like, they're getting mad at me, like I did something wrong.
Right.
I just work here. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But that's it.
People can't live without their technology.
No, I couldn't. I don't know what I would do. Actually, just give me Wi-Fi. It's fine. I don't really care. I don't need cell service. No one calls me. I don't call anybody.
Well,
I'll text you.
like I handle IT essentially at my work, and that's one of the things. Like we're going through this, like putting together these emergency things because we have power outages because of fires, because of heat, because of wind. Like all these things cause power outages, and one of the things that they're like, well, what happens if the Wi-Fi goes down because there's no power and we don't have cell service? And I'm so glad because my boss is like, well, then we have much bigger problems. Like if both of those things are not working, there's a lot.
You break
wrong.
the glass, you pull out your copy of Red Dawn, and you watch it to learn what's going to happen.
Yeah, like
that's what's going on.
You're generally going to have one of those, and if you don't, then you use a radio. Like, I mean, what do you want? I don't know. You can't solve every problem.
No, but you can try. That's for sure.
And you can certainly complain about it.
Speaking of trying to solve problems, are you aware of the Disney Movie Club, Eric?
I'm aware of the Disney Movie Club. I've been a member of the Disney Movie Club for well over a decade.
Well, not anymore because it's shutting down.
Shoot. Of course it is.
Yeah. On Tuesday, it was announced that the Disney Movie Club, the preeminent DVD and Blu-ray subscription service, was shutting down for good.
Oh.
A longtime staple of you're very sad about that. That was it seemed like a genuine awe, not just like your normal like whatever. I'm not really paying attention to you.
Well, it's like
I'm researching eyelash curlers.
I guess I just shut up. I just feel like it's like another thing that like why close it? What is it? How is it affecting them? Like why can't they just let us have anything? I mean,
what do you mean?
I don't even know what it is. But
yeah.
it's
so
like,
why are you? How are you?
I'm just sad because it's like I think I'm sad because Erik said that he's a part of it, and it's like
So you're trauma collecting. That's what you're doing.
He's so cool.
Okay, good.
I'm sad for Erik.
Yeah,
I think
good.
this sucks.
That's great. She's gonna go to battle for you, Erik.
Well, that's great. I hope they still make physical copies of movies. I know that's one of the main reasons that they're shutting it down. And that's the main reason I'm a part of it is because when something new comes out, you can get a discount on it.
Yeah,
Usually there are deals on other things. It's great because you can get like a lot of old movies, a lot of the old live action stuff you can't find anywhere else other than there. So I've got this. I've got a pretty large collection of.
I know a place you can find them.
I don't think you can.
Maybe.
Can you?
A longtime staple of the physical media community, the DMC gave members access to the studio's catalog by offering exclusive and often discounted titles, like Erik was just saying, giving collectors a convenient way to receive all of the latest releases by mail. Following the closure of the club's Canadian branch, jeez Louise, and the ceasing of physical Disney media in Australia altogether, this news didn't come as much of a surprise. Still, for those of us who hold on to DVDs and Blu-rays like the treasures they are, It certainly is disappointing. Eric, what are you going to do with your little baubles? You know what I mean?
The baubles that came with were rarely. They were frequently a little annoying. Like, what am I going to do with this lithograph of a random scene from a movie? No, just give me the disc. I want to put the disc into my collection so that when the power goes or when the internet goes out up here in the mountains, I can still put on a movie.
Yeah. You should just get a separate computer, download Plex. It's free. And just rip all your DVDs, and then you have them on your computer. You can watch them whenever you want. Sell your DVDs. Done. Easy.
That sounds like an awful lot of work when I could just put the DVD into put the Blu-ray into the Xbox and then watch it because all the discs are right next to it.
He has a point.
Yeah, well, whatever. This article is from Paste. It says, ironically, the Disney Movie Club was seeing a resurgence as recently as 2021. Following no new releases since 2019, 2021 saw 16 new Blu-ray exclusives become available, several of which are unavailable to stream, which bugs me, and it bugs a lot of people because Disney Plus was touted as the place to go for all the Disney stuff.
Well, yeah,
this is what's going to make piracy never go away. It's that you sign up for Netflix, you sign up for Hulu, you sign up for Disney Plus, expecting these things to always be there because that's how they were sold. And then they learned, oh, we don't have to actually do this. We can take these limited edition shows away,
like Friends,
and never bring them back, and it's fine. And you can't do anything about it.
No,
it's really annoying.
Complain.
Yeah. For years, animation fans have been asking for the Black Cauldron on Blu-ray, but in a continuation of Disney's known aversion to the film, it put it off releasing it until 2021. Oh, I got to go find that.
I have that.
Other major releases that year included the creepy 80s duo The Watcher in the Woods. Eric, have you seen that?
Yeah, have that on disc too.
And Something Wicked This Way Comes, as well as Make Mine Music, the only Walt Disney animation movie still not on Disney Plus. This goes to what this makes me want to revisit my idea for a new podcast where it's like watching the live action and breaking it down and like talking, like just revolves just around that. Not even just like the movie reviews like we do or we used to do. We don't do anymore because no one cares. No one cares to do them. I think that would be good because I want to see like $1 Million Duck and Follow Me Boys again. And like talk about those. I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
It'd be a fun thing to do.
The computer wore glasses.
Yeah. My Son, the Shoe or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
That's probably one.
Those are weird. Yeah, those are weird times, man.
I feel like you guys are just saying words. I've never heard of anything that you guys just said.
Yeah. Well, I think I may have made mine up, but I think there is one called like My Daughter the Shoe or whatever it is, the tennis shoe that ate my daughter or something like that.
Oh, no, that's right. It was the computer wore tennis shoes, not glasses.
There you go. We're literally talking about the same exact movie.
We both made it up. Yeah. I'd like to reference back to a few years ago when Disney Plus came out, and I remember this quote from Jeremy where you were talking to him about Disney Plus, and you said, "Are you going to get Disney Plus?" And he shouted, "I am Disney Plus."
Oh, that's funny and probably true.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but
it means he has all the stuff already.
Doesn't though. It's Jeremy.
Well, I know. Yeah, he's just lying.
He's got the 6 movies that
Erik
he watches.
is Disney Plus.
Right. Here's another one. Disney is related. Disney is holding back 20 plus 4K remasters of Fox classics. This report claims that they won't release them at all anywhere.
Why? Like what classics?
Well,
are we talking about?
X-Men X3.
I don't know. We're going to figure it out. Maybe we're going to dive into the Screen Rant article, getting it started in the animated. They bought 20th Century Fox in 2019, according to a new report from the Digital Bits. Okay. 20 classic titles from the Fox catalog have been remastered in 4K, but Disney currently has no plans to release them. This means no video on demand release, no Disney Plus release, and no physical media release. The potential silver lining here, as outlined in the report, is that Sony Pictures Home Entertainment has inked a deal to handle all of Disney's physical media releases going forward. There you go, Eric. You were hoping they were still going to produce physical media? Sony is going to do it now.
Cool. Weird.
I know. This person is saying it could mean a streamlining of the company's physical media production process and maybe a release for some of these titles that they're holding on to now in the near future. So maybe they're holding on to them because they knew this deal was going to go through with Sony. So they're like, we're not going to, we're going to shutter everything now, then hold on to them and see how everything goes. But
interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'll buy more discs. One of the main reasons that we really started getting into physical media, well, I guess it was back in Chicago where we actually had decent internet, but we had to run a very, very long Ethernet cable from the wall to our Xbox to stream early Netflix stuff.
Hell yeah.
But the other main reason it was collecting the points that you would get from the reward points.
This is what our friend Charlie, our announcer friend Charlie, did.
Yeah.
And he was like saving up to do a thing, and I don't know that he's going to be able to do the thing now.
Was it the Disney Studio Tour?
The Disney Studio Tour, absolutely.
There we go.
That's right.
Because we've done it once, and we now have enough points to do it a second time.
Whoa!
So might need to be a show thing if they're going to shut down doing more of this. But we at least have enough for a what is it, a 6-person tour? So yeah, maybe there we go.
Cool.
Get that Terrence and Bev back on. I don't know.
Yeah, like they would do it.
Have them head up to Burbank.
I'm trying to read this article to see if they listed what shows or what movies they've remastered and aren't releasing, because it's like an insider thing. But
and they still haven't.
No one says.
Put it in the article.
Yeah, no one says. So I don't know how much of that I believe. It's kind of one of those things where you can't really prove anyway. So you're kind of like, I don't know. Let's just say this.
Maybe it was Meet Me in St. Louis or the Philadelphia Story. I don't know if those are Fox.
The Philadelphia Boys. Okay, we have some more news, but we're getting late. So I'm going to try one more. Not that one. That's really boring. That one's
it's about the Philadelphia Story.
That one's kind of sad. Yeah, that one's angry. This one's angry too. You know what? We're done.
Okay.
We're going to be done. Because there's a lot of like not really good news. And it's too late to get into that.
And we don't want to end on a angry or sad note.
Yeah. I mean, I can give you the headlines, but, basically Florida is being Florida and having permission slips required for students to see Tangled and stuff like that.
Oh, my. Okay.
Yeah.
Tangled?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
you
need
can
to
guess
leave
why.
this getting super annoyed.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it. Look, if you are out and about and you're running around and you want a nice cold beer, find out where the 21st Amendment is selling their beers on the 21st Amendment website. You can go 21st-amendment.com. Go to their beer locator. They're in over 70. I literally almost said over 75 states. And that's not true. They're in over 35 U.S. states serving you the best beer you can get. And I'm going to tell you, that beer actually travels really well. There's a lot of breweries that don't put a lot of effort into their packaging, or at least as much. They don't invest as much as Sully has done with the 21st Amendment. So the beers travel very, very well from California to wherever you are. Check them out. 21st Amendment. They're great beers. And if your place doesn't carry them, have them ask, please. Please, 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 please. Hell or High Watermelon, all the various flavors that are out there. I'm pretty sure it's watermelon season again. And good stuff over there, 21st Amendment. So thank you very much to them for supporting the show. Thank you very much for supporting the show. If you want to support the show in different ways, you can go to our Etsy page, which is etsy.com/shop/EarzUp now, I guess. churroshirt.com. That also works too.
Hey, there we go.
We got the Bob Chapek Misfits tee. We got a bunch of t-shirts up there. And if you want to join the Patreon, that's a really great way to do it as well. It's $5 a month. You can subscribe and you get the secret show, which, by the way, if you're listening live, we are going to be doing the secret show. We haven't figured it out. Maybe Sunday night, maybe Monday. I think sounds like Brandy's going to be out of town, so it might be boys night only. You know what I mean? Ripping it up, making some drinks, talking some news.
Love it.
It'll be a good time. But you get that show. You get all the other secret stuff that we have. We get Puny Pod has some stuff. I think After Hours from the Supreme Resort folks. I don't know what goes on. I have no idea anymore. I've given all that up to RGH. He seems to do it more than I do. So
yeah, call Ryan.
Yeah. You call Ryan. His number is 619-487. I don't know whose number that is. Don't call. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you.